don't know if you have been in any way tapped into what's going on outside, but these days the girls are stressed and it is impacting the way that we show up at work, the way that we show up in our bedrooms, the way that we sleep, the way that we eat. It is impacting all areas of our lives. What we thought we knew about ourselves, how we feel about ourselves, and what we end up doing with that information. So we are going to have us a little conversation not only about why we're stressed, but we're also going to talk about three solutions that we can use to help us to mitigate some of that stress so that we can feel just a little bit better. Hi, I'm Dr. Donna Oriowo, sex and relationship therapist in the Washington, D.C. metro area. I like to say I help Black people feel free, fabulous, and effed for the algorithm. And I am the author of Drink Water and Manage Your Business, a Black woman's guide to unlearning the BS and healing self-esteem. And where it comes to healing self-esteem, whew, some of us think it has nothing to do with the fact that you are stressed. Baby, you're wrong. When it comes to what we all see going on outside, all of these things that sort of bring a sense of stress, that bring uncertainty and all that other stuff, there's a reason why we feel the stress, not just because it's uncertain outside, but it is also sometimes responding to the uncertainty that we also feel inside. Yes, I know sometimes the call is coming from inside the house. So I often talk about how what we know about ourselves influences and impacts how we feel about ourselves. Self-concept informs self-esteem. And for a lot of us, we have not been operating in how we feel about ourselves. Rather, we have been operating in the performance that we put on so that others feel good about ourselves. And I get it. Right now, especially, it feels like it is all about your safety. So trying to perform the right way at work so that you can keep that job, even the job that you don't really want, so that you can keep that housing, so that you can keep that partner, so that you can keep some level of status quo when the world is already feeling a little bit shaky. All of these things make sense. We are trying to find our homeostasis, and sometimes the homeostasis is in the performance. It's not in actually connecting with who we are, because sometimes we feel the need to protect that piece, to put it to the side, and to make sure that that will be left over for us over here when everything over here is looking like a bag of cats. I mean, and there are also multiple reasons for us to feel stressed, to feel anxious, and low key, high key to feel depressed. And those things, I mean, a war, right? Like there's conflict here, there, and everywhere. Some of us have always been dealing with things like, oh, I don't know, racism. Some of us have also been dealing with misogynoir and sexism. There's so many things that we are dealing with on a systemic level, and some of these things may feel like they're at only an individual level. So I like to say that things happen on multiple levels, right? This is one of the penchants of social work. We talk about the micro, the mezzo, and the macro. So the macro is the me and you level. It is small, it is personal, it is one-to-one in a sense. The mezzo level is you and your communities. Some people don't think of family as a community, but they kind of are, right? So like it's like them, it's your neighborhood, those type of things. And then on the macro level, you have your government. You have society, right? Like we always talk about society as though society is not also made up of us, but hey, I digress, whatever, whatever, whatever. So there are multiple reasons to be feeling stressed. And I think that some of y'all, like you in particular, low key, high key, you are mean to yourself. You are disregarding what has been and why you're feeling stressed. You're looking to your neighbor and wondering, well, if they're not feeling stressed, then that means I shouldn't be feeling stressed. And if I'm feeling stressed when they're not feeling stressed, it must be a sign of my weakness. Please, sugar booger, stop. Stop. That is not how this works. Someone else dealing with their stress in a different way that may be more internalized that you can't see doesn't mean that you are failing in the way that you're showing up. I like to remind the people when they come to the therapy office that you just came off COVID and COVID's not even done, but you came off a panini that you weren't expecting. That has rewired brains. It's rewired relationships. It's rewired our relationship with work, with ourselves, with our lovers, with our family, with others. All of these things were impacted by this one event, right? We have been in a mental health crisis for even longer than we've had this panini, right? We're having like a shortage among mental health counselors who know what they're doing. Not just mental health counselors in general, but those who know what they're doing. Some people would say that we're in an AI scare time, right? We have multiple things going on, all of which are demanding our attention and have an impact on our bodies. It is unreasonable to believe that you're supposed to be behaving as you did in circa 2019. It's 2026, beloved. You've gone through some things. Some things have changed. And I did not even get into what you have been dealing with as an individual, as a person in your personal life. We haven't even talked about that. We're just talking about the big global stage things, the things that you've been seeing, the things that you've been dealing with. I mean, Black Lives Matter, Panini, all of these things. And the thing is, it's like a bad party. Can't stop, won't stop, right? It's continuing. So it's one thing compounded on top of the other. I know that a lot of people think, oh, it's just this thing added to this thing. That's not what I said. That's what you heard. I said compounded. When I think of compounded, I think multiplied, right? This thing multiplied by that thing. And then take all of these things that have been happening and then go ahead and multiply it by whatever you may have already been experienced because you're Black, or because you're a woman, or because you're fat, or because pick your ism that you have also been dealing with: colorism, texturism, featureism, racism, sexism, capitalism. All of these things compound the problem. It's like compound interest, right? It's not just added, it's multiplied. It's BS. And it is a lot for any one individual body to handle. The problem that I see is that too many of us are getting into the space where we are blaming ourselves for the way that we are showing up when this is the way that things are right now. You're being unreasonable with love. It's unreasonable. It is not reasonable to offer yourself blame. It is not reasonable to see yourself as less than. It is not reasonable to say that you are weak when there have been a lot of things that have been sapping your strength. It is not reasonable, beloved. So I need us to get together and get on the same page about this. So the question then becomes, what are 3 things that we can do to ensure that we are doing everything that there is to do to make sure that we're tapping into a space of easing some of that stress and anxiety and all that other stuff? So there are 3 things that we can do. Number 1, we could tap into rest. A la Trisha Hershey, rest is resistance. Now, I like to believe, and I'm not Trisha Hershey, so obviously I cannot confirm, but when I hear rest is resistance, I'm thinking that she's talking specifically to marginalized people. And a lot of you are not tapped into a community at all for you to be wanting to rest from the nothing that you have done. But the Black body, and the Black woman's body specifically, is often seen as that which should be laboring for friends, laboring for family, laboring for jobs, constantly in a space of work, never in a space of rest, always a human doing, never a human being. That makes the rest revolutionary. So taking that rest means that you are tapping in to the other spaces around you, and keeping in mind that there are 7 types of rest. That is something that I've talked about in a separate video. Physical, mental, social, sensory, spiritual, emotional, and creative. Those are 7 types of rest. A lot of us low-key, high-key, we tap into physical rest. We will take a nap. We will take a little sit down. We will, we'll do one of those things, and we will completely forget about the other types of rest that there are. Sometimes the thing that you need to do is turn off that music, turn off the constant streaming of sound that you have going on in the background, because your ears are ready for a break. Right? Sometimes it's turn those lights down low. I mean, Bob Marley said it. I'm just saying, are you following directions? And pull your window curtain. I'm just saying, lower the lights. Maybe take a candlelight shower, a way to sort of soothe your eyes from constantly dealing with the glare of this thing or that thing. So tapping into the 7 types of rest that there are out there and figuring out which one you're actually feeling deficient in. So acknowledge that there are 7 types, look up the 7 types, figure out where are you feeling deficient, and create your day-by-day plan for tapping back in. Rest is important. And rest will help you to do the next thing that I'm going to ask you to tap into. And even if you don't, you're going to tap in anyway, right? So thing number 1 that we can do is we can rest. We can tap into rest. The second thing that we can do is we can tap into pleasure. Pleasure has multiple benefits. When we are in our pleasure bag, we are able to tap in to all of the benefits that pleasure can give us. And not just, what happens in your pants. So in my book, Drink Water and Mind Your Business, I talk about the benefits package, right? The pleasure benefits package starts on page 177. But pleasure can reduce the effects of stress and anxiety on the body. It can increase your dopamine and endorphin levels so that you feel happy, and so that it can reduce some of that feelings of depression. It can help improve your quality of sleep, boost your immune system, give you better circulation, reduce muscle tension and pain. It can help to improve your cognitive functioning and memory, increase creativity and your ability to problem solve, improve your relationships with family, friends, and lovers, improve your systems related to anxiety and depression, help your digestive health, improve your sexual health. You also breathe better when you're in a space of what? Pleasure. I'm saying that there are multiple benefits to pleasure. So I'm saying you got to tap in. So when I say pleasure, some of y'all are nasty and you thought about something that I did not say. When I say pleasure, I mean both what is sexual and what is non-sexual. And when I say non-sexual pleasure specifically, I'm looking like, well, what is that food, that fruit, that something that's delicious and makes you go, yummy, yummy, that you enjoy? Pay attention to it and nothing else at the time that you're trying to enjoy it, right? It is tapping into the things that make you smile. So for me, there are several things that bring me a sense of peace and pleasure. I love doing puzzles. I love reading. I don't always want to escape into a book, but a girl does love to read. And one thing that I've gotten into a lot recently is baking, cookies, snickerdoodles. I feel like it is very specific. And I like trying new things, and I'm going to be getting back in on that ASAP. So like I want to try making, have you ever made pain au chocolat, the chocolate croissants? This girl wants to try and make it. This is something that brings me a sense of pleasure, being able to follow these directions while I'm dancing around in my kitchen and then eat the product. Pleasure all day, every day. And it taps into multiple types of pleasure for me. The question is, what taps into the pleasure for you? Figuring out what brings you a sense of pleasure and then doing that and creating time for pleasure is important, because a lot of us, we have a beautiful capacity for BS. What we don't have is a great capacity for pleasure. A lot of you know exactly what to do when you're feeling stressed, right? Or when you know how to deal with being upset and disappointed and all that, but trying to figure out how to tap into pleasure without it having to always be guilty, that becomes part of the difficulty. So I'm saying, tap in, friend. We're finding pleasure today. So to me, your challenge there would be to create a daily pleasure practice. So every day, do a thing that brings you a sense of pleasure and or peace, and marry it to the first thing that I said, which is tap back into your rest. So on those 3 things that we can do to deal with the stress that we are experiencing because of all the stuff that's happening outside. Number 1 was tap into rest. Number 2 was tap into pleasure. And the final thing that we can do is tap into communities. Yes, friend, your online communities and your offline communities. Because at some point you got to get off the computer, off the phone, go outside. Why is this one of the things that can help you? Because one of the worst things that happen when we're feeling this type of stress, especially when we're feeling ashamed at the idea that we are experiencing stress the way that we are, and we feel like we should be doing better than this, that it's not that big a deal, why can't I, blah blah blah. The shame part is what will get you. So there's a difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is I did something wrong. Shame is something is wrong with me. And when we are looking at people and thinking or feeling like they're achieving more than we are, and we just feel stressed and tired and alone and all that, what we tend to do is we fold in on ourselves. And when I say we fold in, I mean that we create separation between ourselves and the people that we love and like and care for, partly because we're feeling that shame. We don't want them to see that something is broken within us, that we are unable to cope with what's going on today, despite the fact that you are perfectly normal, which means that you are not the problem. Anyway, while we're busy and doing that, and we're in that space, we are creating space, mental and physical space between ourselves and someone else. So we can feel lonely and alone. Alone is the physical state of being. I am by myself. Like I am by myself in this room. I am alone. And then lonely is I feel at an emotional or mental distance from other people. And when we're feeling shame, we tend to do both. BOAF, friend. We tend to create physical distance, but we also create mental, emotional distance between ourselves and someone else's selves. And that just usually increases the feelings that we have of, particularly of feeling stressed in our bodies, feeling stressed in our minds, feeling tense, because now you have to go it alone. There was one dope sis. I wish I could remember her name right now. She was talking about this phenomena in mental health where your brain is very aware when it is by itself and it works harder. So when you are alone, it works harder. And at the end of any day, you feel more tired than if you were with even one other person, because one other person being present means that your brain has to work um, a little less hard to keep you alive, because you have to also remember, what is the goal of the body? What is the goal of the brain? Homeostasis. It wants to be in a good space. And in being in that good space, it is having more spatial awareness, especially when you're alone. It's trying to make sure you don't trip, you don't fall, you don't hurt yourself, that it don't, that we don't have to have someone, please call 911, right? It's trying to keep you alive and trying to keep you safe, which is a lot of mental load to bear when you are by yourself, which it relaxes away from when you're with someone else. And when you are creating distance, emotional, mental, and physical distance, you are more alone, which means you have more mental stress and strain. And that will come through in the body, because the body will always tell on you. It's why, like, my masseuse can clock when a girl is stressed, even though I insist that they should mind their business. That's neither here nor there. The point is that when we are feeling stressed, there are three things that we can do. And those three things are, again, rest, tap into pleasure, and tap into communities. Part of the reason I'm also saying offline communities is because sometimes online communities, they're having a constant discussion about some of the same things, which can make it feel like we're more informed when sometimes we're not actually more informed. Um, but beyond that, it can create a very specific reality that you're not living in your neighborhood. And because you are not tapped into what's going on in your neighborhood, when you step outside, it can feel like a doomsday thing, right? Despite the fact that we may not be doomsday scrolling in the way that we maybe have in the past. We're just trying to stay informed. We're trying to know that what's going on. It doesn't mean that it is not still having some sort of a negative effect. So I'm just saying there's a lot going outside, which means there's a lot that we have to be doing inside. We need to tap into rest. We need to tap into pleasure. We need to tap into our communities, because we're not doing this thing alone. And pulling yourself up by your bootstraps is very 1882. All right. That is all I have for you today for the Daily Donna. I am Dr. Donna. This is the Daily Donna. And I want you to tell me, how are you tapping in this week? What are you going to do? Are you tapping into rest, to pleasure, or to community? And how will you do each one? Don't be shy. Place it in the comments. And I will see you in tomorrow for what? Another Daily Donna, where we have our conversations with a therapeutic edge. All right. Bye.